Good evening. This is Tuesday, October 14th, 21 days until the 2008 presidential election. As tonight's New York Times CBS News poll puts Senator Obama 14 points ahead of Senator McCain, another supporter of the Republican ticket, this time in Pennsylvania, upon hearing Obama's name at a Palin rally today, yelling from the crowd, quote, "Kill him." Our fifth story in the countdown, and still the Republicans say nothing. Senator McCain responding to these repeated calls for violence by his supporters, not by denouncing them, but by attacking Obama. We begin tonight in Scranton. The Times-Tribune newspaper reporting that before Governor Palin arrived on stage at the rally there, Republican congressional candidate Chris Hackett telling the crowd that Senator Obama should come to Pennsylvania and learn what the state's values are. During the booing that followed, someone shouted out, "Kill him." What would be the second time that somebody at a McCain or Palin rally has said exactly that, one each also for cries of terrorist and treason and off with his head. On Friday, Senator McCain having defended his opponent, telling supporters at a rally in Minnesota they would have nothing to fear from an Obama presidency. Today asked by our Philadelphia station, WCAU, whether that might have been an admission that the negative attacks are backfiring, Senator McCain expressing outrage that the Democratic nominee did not defend him over the weekend, when Congressman John Lewis said in a statement that the Republican ticket was sowing the seeds of hatred and division and hostility in our political discourse, in a statement that noted the tone segregationist George Wallace had fostered in Alabama during the 60s.
Actually, there's been no shift in tone. Someone said something inappropriate at a rally of mine about Senator Obama, and I repudiated it. And I'm astonished that Senator Obama has not repudiated Congressman John Lewis, who said the most outrageous thing I've ever seen in politics, connecting Sarah Palin and me to a church bombing, to George Wallace, to segregation, and Senator Obama has not repudiated John Lewis. That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Congressman Lewis having already issued a second statement saying it was not his intention nor desire to directly compare McCain or Palin to Governor Wallace. Senator McCain having claimed just yesterday in an interview with CNN's Dana Bash that what is said about him at Democratic rallies is just as hostile.
We've heard people in the crowd screaming things like terrorist, traitor, when you talked about Senator Obama, and worse.
I've heard the same thing. I've heard the same thing unfortunately, at Senator Obama's rallies being said about me.
That's odd, because here is what Senator Obama said when a crowd at one of his rallies tried to merely to boo the Republican nominee.
My opponent has made his choice. No, we don't need that. Last week, we just need to vote. That's what we need to do.
Perhaps what Senator McCain thinks he's hearing is the actual sound of independent voters moving en masse to his opponent. As we mentioned, Senator Obama opening up a 14-point lead among likely voters in the New York Times poll out tonight. Last week, before the town hall-style debate, that margin was just 3 points. He leads independents by 18. Obama over 50% in 4 battleground states, according to the Quinnipiac poll for the Wall Street Journal and WashingtonPost.com. Colorado by 52-43, Minnesota by 51-40, Michigan by 54-38, and Wisconsin by 54-37. Senator McCain's pander release of the day, meanwhile, an actual economic plan with specifics, heavy on help for seniors and the rich. The middle class, maybe not so much. A tax cut on withdrawals from retirement accounts, a guarantee for all savings for 6 months that's above the $250,000 already guaranteed now, a 50% cut in the capital's gains tax, Senator Obama noting it's not much like anybody has much to worry about in the way of capital gains at the moment. Senator Keating 5, meanwhile, telling supporters he has learned the economic lessons of history, deregulation, but his opponent has not.
They say those who fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them. Well, I know my history lessons. And I sure won't make the mistakes Senator Obama will.
Even less subtle, McCain's claim that electing Obama would be the biggest risk ever undertaken by the American people.
Perhaps never in history have the American people been asked to risk so much based on so little.
Lots to talk about tonight with our own Howard Fineman, of course, also the senior White House correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Good evening, Howard.
Hi, Keith.
All right, the New York Times CBS News number among likely voters came out. Reuters put out a bulletin about it. Is it that big a development that it's 14 points and 21% said their opinion of McCain has dropped in the last few weeks?
Oh, I think it's big, and I think Reuters was right to move something on this. When the New York Times speaks, it's important. Now, the poll's a little out there. It's a little farther out in terms of the margin than some of the others, but direction matters and the averages matter. You can always tell what's happening in the polls in a campaign based on who's campaigning where. John McCain is defending turf down in Southern Virginia, places he shouldn't have to bother with. Obama's venturing into red states. And I thought the most important number in that poll was really not that one, but the one about who understands your economic situation. A key number. Obama's up to about 73% of the American people saying he understands our situation. I think John McCain is at 48%. That is the big number in that poll.
The issue of, and maybe these are more related than they might seem at first blush, but the issue of these violent outcries at the rallies. McCain now says he's been the target of them at Obama rallies. Also, we heard him say Obama is the riskiest choice America could have ever addressed. What happened to what he said to that father-to-be in Minnesota on Friday, that you would have nothing to fear from an Obama presidency? Was that only on Fridays?
Yeah, and that he was an honorable man and a good family man and so on. The McCain campaign is like every other campaign on the defensive. It's schizophrenic. They can't decide what their strategy is. If Barack Obama is the greatest risk that we've ever faced, if he's palling around with terrorists, if he doesn't understand America, if he doesn't know what mainstream culture is all about, then the McCain campaign has a duty to go pedal to the metal against him. But 1 minute McCain does it, 1 minute his surrogates do it, 1 minute the RNC does it, and the other minute John McCain himself pulls back. So they can't decide what to do. His own younger brother, Joe McCain, said, unleash John McCain. The problem is we don't know what that is anymore. Right. We used to, but we don't anymore.
Rush Limbaugh, of all people, I don't like to usually quote him seriously, but he interviewed Governor Palin on the radio today and asked her if she thought about her political future beyond this campaign. Does that question by itself, no matter what the answer is, say a lot about where things are? Because it assumes, I guess here, that she's not going to be vice president in January. And Limbaugh asked the question, not I didn't ask the question, Limbaugh asked the question.
Rush Limbaugh matters, and he matters big time with conservatives. He never particularly liked John McCain anyway. It was a matter of wooing Limbaugh. One of the reasons why John McCain picked Sarah Palin was to try to firm up the conservative base. I think the conservatives who are not happy with the way McCain has run his campaign or with the substance of his proposals on the economy are now looking around to the next turn of the wheel. And by the way, Sarah Palin's on the list. You think Mitt Romney or Mike Huckabee are colossuses or whatever the proper Latin would be? She's going to be out there. She's been on the cover of our magazine 3 times. She is a big national figure, and in terms of Republican conservative politics, the big winner in this campaign.
And you got a lot of good press for that one tight shot. Anyway, last question here. In the Philadelphia interview today, McCain also said tomorrow night the debate will not be a game changer. Is this the usual lowered expectations being set in advance, or did something truthful slip out here?
No, I think they had to make the decision about whether they're going to go Tony Rezko, Chicago politician Bill Daley, whether they're going to maybe even touch Jeremiah Wright and Bill Ayers and so forth. Either that or they're going to stick with the economy. And I think McCain made the fundamental decision on the big stage for the debate to stick with the economy, which will further beg the question, if Barack Obama is the nightmare, why aren't you sounding the alarm on the stage out in Hempstead, Long Island tomorrow night?
And as you conclude that, of course, there's also a story that in a radio interview in St. Louis, he said, well, I probably will mention Ayers now. So it is, as you say, it is schizophrenic at this point.
I'm guaranteed to be wrong no matter what I say.
Well, but then again, so is the candidate. So you're even on this. Howard Fineman of Newsweek and MSNBC, always a great pleasure to see you in person.
Thank you,
sir.
Keith.